Good morning and welcome to EuroSTAR Webinar Week. Our third webinar is presented by Ajay Balamurugadas and he will speak about weekend testing. My name is Miriam and I will be moderating this webinar. Today's webinar will last approximately 25 minutes with time for questions at the end. If you want to ask a question, use the Q&A button on your live meeting toolbar or press Alt and Q on your keyboard. This webinar will also be recorded and will be available in our webinar archive shortly. When tweeting about this webinar, please make sure you use the hashtag ESConf so we can find and answer any questions you may have. So now I will hand you over to Ajay and we can get started on today's topic. Good morning, Ajay.
Good morning, EuroSTAR delegates. This webinar is titled The Joy of Facilitating Weekend Testing, and I am Ajay Balamurugadas, one of the co-founders of Weekend Testing, along with Parimala Shankaraya, Sharath Bairegowda, and Manoj Nair. So, first things first, let's take a poll. How many of you have participated in any weekend testing sessions? Cool. We give some 10 more seconds. Okay. Yeah, so the results are up. It says 41% yes, 41% no, 16% say, what is weekend testing? Right, good. So let's start. So weekend testing was started in August 2009. This we started as to improve our testing skills. We wanted a platform to practice, sharpen our testing skills. So as you all might have known, we have crossed around more than 100 testing sessions and we have chapters all over the world now. We have chapters in Asia, we have in Europe. This year in January or early Feb, we had a chapter in America. Then we have this weeknight testing as well. Tonight we have a weeknight testing session. So let's see what happens behind the scenes of a weekend testing session. So here we have a mind map. I said, okay, a mind map is one of the good ways to represent a lot of ideas. So I said, okay, one of the tested tools in weekend testing, MindMister, I use that. And this one is from the Free Mind, the first tool used in weekend testing, the first session. So let me start with on the items on the right hand side, the announcement, registrations, queries. So the first, anytime we want to conduct a weekend testing session, which happens usually on Saturdays and Sundays for 2 hours, we announce about the session through the weekend testing website. We advertise through the Twitter, Skype, and the emails. Thanks to Dr. Kem Kainer, now we announce the sessions on weekend testing through the software testing Yahoo group as well. And then we do receive a lot of registrations. Testers register 2-3 days in advance by sending email. Then we add them as contacts on Skype. And then we do, that's real fun, Sometimes testers are so eager, at the last minute plan changes and they want to attend the sessions, right? So we do add the last minute registrations. We are not strict. We are always, welcome to help testers practice their testing skills. Even we learn from testers, right? Then we do have queries as to, okay, how do I install the software or what time? Because sometimes people, it's tough. People get confused between the time zones. We do have experiences where people have turned up 1 hour later or 1 hour early, right? That happens. So we are always online. We do provide we quick reply as soon as possible to the queries. Then the facilitator, then before conducting a session, he has to go through the different software. He has to decide, okay, which software shall I use for this session? What would be the installer size? How much time it would take to download? Then he has to contact the programmer if it is not an open source software. He has to take the permission of the programmer, the management, or the product management. Shall I publish the bug reports? Are you okay with weekend testing the software? And then he also has to do a smoke test, right? Or something like, okay, does it crash on the first instance? Am I able to install the software? Is it a Mac specific software? Is it a OS independent? What if some tester comes up with Mac operating system, Macintosh? So what does he do if this software is not supported? So there are a lot of questions. So the facilitator has to, take care of these details of the software, and then he has to decide about the mission as well. As the weekend testing is for 2 hours, the first 1 hour is of a testing session where the testers work towards fulfilling the mission, and the next hour is the discussion session or the debrief session, as it is commonly known. So the facilitator has to decide the mission. Is the mission provided by the programmer? Some programmers do provide us saying, okay, we want you to find bugs on this particular module alone, right? Or they say, okay, can you please compare this checklist, most commonly used checklist, and test our website? So the programmer provides the mission sometimes, and sometimes we do have guest facilitators. We have had guest facilitators like John Bach, Dr. Kem Kena himself, then Pradeep Soundarajan, and many more guest facilitators, right? So the guest facilitator do have their own ideas. They want to share, they want to test. So the facilitator has to, the facilitator in the sense, the one who runs the weekend testing session, so he has to, announce the mission set by the guest facilitator. And then most interesting part is that we do set some minor traps. Something like, okay, we'll not provide who is the customer, we'll not provide details about the customer, nor about the mission. We'll see, okay, do the testers ask for the details, or do they fall into the trap and start testing? Many a times we have seen that testers don't ask so many questions, right? As soon as the software installation link is provided, they download, they install, they run they test, and then we said, okay, were you aware that the mission was to test the installation and not what you tested? Then they say, oh yeah, I never questioned. And then said, oh, that was a trap. And some testers do ask questions, keep asking questions till the last minute. Sometimes it's good to question. At the same time, we need to take care of the cost versus value, right? So the facilitator puts in some minor traps, and then he does provide the resources. For some sessions, there needs to be some prerequisites, like from some software requires a .NET framework, or some requires some other tools, like there's a session on mind mapping or analyzing the specifications and using some mind mapping tools. It is better to have a mind map tool installed rather than the tester comes to the session and then the facilitator says, oh, you don't have a mind mapping tool? Please install. No, we don't waste time. We take care of the cost versus value. And then once the mission is announced, we have the testing session. Usually in different chapters, the testing session, few have the introduction, few don't have the introduction session, few directly jump into the testing session, and few, start with the introduction session saying, okay, please tell about yourself, what is your experience and stuff like that, to make the testers comfortable. And then the mission is provided, then we do, the facilitators don't test, that's the best part. The facilitators don't test and they are there for assistance. We don't moderate, we facilitate the session. Then we, if say 2 testers are stuck and they don't know what to do, how to progress, we assist them, give them clues like how about pairing, how about doing a pair test with so-and-so, or we pair with the tester and give them test ideas, encourage them. And then as time is constantly running, we have to keep track of the time as well, right? So sometimes you get so involved in testing or facilitating or, in a good discussion on testing that we forget that it's a 2 hours discussion, right? So we take care of that because some testers join sessions at their in the evening time. So we need to take care of the time factor also because it's late night, midnight at some places, and it's quite early some other places. So it's the duty of the facilitator to keep track of the time. And once the testing session is over, and one more funny incident, so many times testers don't respond to the facilitator's call that time is up. They want to test more. They always have this complaint, so less time, right? Typical of testers. They always need more time to test. Okay, so after keeping track of time, and then we say, okay, please stop. This is the end of testing session. Let's get back to discussion session or the debrief session. There, the facilitator in the background pings each of the testers saying, okay, will you go first? Are you okay going after ABC? Right? So we decide the order. We try to encourage the first timers or those who are shy. So we encourage them. We ask them a few questions. Okay, how was it? How was the experience? These are not scripted, mind you. These questions are not scripted, right? This depends on the session. Some testers, if they're not able to, even install, then we say, okay, what did you do if you were not able to install? Did you inform the facilitator? Did you take help of other testers? Or is this a machine-specific issue? We try to, help them get to the root cause or encourage them to talk more. So that it's interesting that every testing session has, we can tell 2 stories, say at least 2 stories. One, the story about the product, what we tested, how was it, and one story about the testing story, right? So we encourage testers to tell both the stories, the product story as well as the testing story. Then we acknowledge their story. It's very important, right? Testers spend 1 hour. They expect, okay, at least an appreciation of the good work they did, at least some suggestions on where they missed, what they did not take care of, right? So facilitators patiently listen to the points, discussion, then facilitate the entire discussion. Most important, when these sessions happen, the testing sessions, sometimes we tend to go, out of the way, wayward discussions happen like, okay, no, this is not possible. Something which is totally unrelated to the mission. People start discussing and there's a heated discussion. Then the facilitator has to take care that, okay, friends, let's focus on the session, keeping track of the time. And then finally, then we need to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak, right? There's no point in having 10 testers, 15 testers, and only 3 or 4 speaking about their experiences, right? So we try to, give a fair chance to everyone to discuss their story, to discuss their experiences, and we learn from their experiences too. I mean, the facilitators, the other testers. Then suppose, say, Darren McMillan is an expert on mind mapping, according to me. So if he comes to a session and he says, okay, this particular mind mapping tool is better. I have tried these 3, and I feel MindMister is the best. Then it's good, it's good to listen to others. It's good to learn from others' experiences, and that's what we do in the discussion session. Share resources, and finally we do need to highlight the traps, right? So once discussion session is done, we move on to the experience reports. The facilitator makes sure that, okay, all the test reports are received, all the testers have submitted their test reports, and then he consolidates and then posts it on the website, weekendtesting.com, right? And then the sessions where the programmers or the guest facilitators required a particular document or a test report, we consolidate and send the report along with the names of the testers, and we do publish on the weekend testing website, right? So this is a brief overview of the weekend testing session. So coming to strange experiences. Imagine you are in a testing session, you give a mission to the testers, there are say 12 testers testing, so the time is like, okay, we start now, and everyone asks, what's the mission? You provide a mission, okay, test this for this particular quality criteria, or find the solution to this puzzle. Within 2-3 minutes, a tester shouts, yes, here's the answer. If you want, you can check it. What do? The testing session is supposed to be a 1-hour session, right? And the mission is achieved in flat 5 minutes. What do? It happened. It happened in weekend testing session number 16, right? Mission was achieved in 5 minutes, and I was the facilitator, and I thought, okay, great. Here is the second mission, right? I said, okay, mission 1 accomplished, great, fantastic. Take mission 2. After half an hour, mission 2 was accomplished. I said, okay, cool. Here is the mission 3, right? That's the way you engage testers for an hour, because some testers could not meet the mission 1 even at the, say, 45th minute. So what do? You can't leave them behind. Or you can't, say, okay, the session is over as Mr. XYZ or, completed the mission in 5 minutes, we end the session. No. You have to take care that you have to engage all the testers, those who completed the mission early, those who are struggling to meet the mission, those who are learning, first-timers, right? So you have to encourage everyone, and that's what happened in WT16. Then Entangle, great product. We tested entangle.com. Instead of testing on the staging server, we tested directly on the production server. And after 10 minutes of testing, Mohinder Khosla, he said, there's something fishy here, right? You guys are testing on some other site, I'm testing, your data is not visible to me, my data is not visible to you. Then we cross-checked, we realized that it was we tested on a production site, right? So that was strange. And we had to, delete the test data. We had to inform Elizabeth, and the test data was removed from the production server. And in one of the sessions where John Buck was present, unwanted guest, he arrived, we added, okay, he's a tester, maybe, we added, and then he started abusing all of us. We had to, remove him from the session. And then, this is interesting, type the message to the wrong person. Usually in the background, if there are more than, say, 10 to 12 testers or, say, 20 testers, we usually go in with 2 facilitators. So myself and Parimala Shankaraya, author of Curious Tester blog, were facilitating, and we were discussing in the background, okay, testers are busy, let's give them this resource and all that stuff. And the guest facilitator was John Buck. Instead of typing to Parimala, I directly typed a Skype message to John. In the room, in the group chat where Parimala, John, and myself were there, I typed directly there instead of typing in the private chat between myself and Parimala. So it happens, right? The message intended to Parimala was directed to John, right? Then sometimes power cut. You don't have a control sometimes. You are in between a session, power cuts, and people are expecting response from the facilitator. So one of the alternatives is I log on using my mobile phone, and I log on using the computer as well. And whenever, computer power cuts, I reply using the mobile phone. So we make sure that the testers don't know this. And sometimes I had to, a few facilitators like Parimala and myself had to run from from the house to the cafe booth, the internet cafe, cyber cafe to log into the session as facilitators and continue. Right? Simultaneously power cut at both the places. What do? No backup, right? So yeah, these are some of the strange experiences we had. And so what some people do ask, okay, you don't test, you are the facilitator, what is your takeaway? Do you learn anything? Oh man, I'd be lying if I say I don't learn anything. There's so much to learn. Facilitation is a skill, I can say that. Time management. You have to answer queries. You have to make sure that the software is running. Some people ping on Gmail, some people ping on Skype, some on Twitter, some call you. You have to add everyone on Skype, and you have to make sure that you are answering queries on Skype for the testers who have joined in time, and the late registrants. So, and okay, you get to know what tasks you need to work on, and how to manage time, all that stuff. That's fantastic. Time management, quick thinking. As I said, mission is achieved in 5 minutes. What do? You say, okay, that is the mission, or you provide, oh, okay, cool, great, here's the second mission, right? And test ideas. Sometimes you learn so many test ideas by being just a facilitator. You get to know how the testers think. Then you ping the testers in private asking, okay, is everything okay? Are you stuck at something? And then you provide some resource, and then they say, oh, cool. So I think here is one more resource. I'm thinking on these lines. So you get to know our thought process of different testers. You learn new test ideas, and this is fantastic exposure to multiple software. In the session, we have one software, but as a facilitator, you need to test at least 2 to 3 softwares to zero in on one software, right? The testers see one software, the final software, but as a facilitator, he or she has to test multiple software. Okay, is this software too complex? Is this software, the installer size is too big? The installer size is, does it work on OS, or is it OS independent, or is it specific to Linux, right? And then this is the best part, to gain new friends, right? So many friends now have made through weekend testing, and we constantly share knowledge. So that I say is the biggest takeaway as facilitator. You're always learning. And yeah, that's it. And if you have any questions, please feel free. And we do have this is the details. If you want to participate in the weekend testing in Asia, you can log on to, or you can send an email to weekendtesting@gmail.com. Skype and Twitter ID is weekend testing. The same with Europe chapter, America chapter, Europe testers, weekend testers, Americas. And then we do have the weeknight testing, right? So weeknight testing, the Skype ID is weeknight testing. No space in between, right? Yeah. So any questions, please? I have some questions. Okay, so here's a question. Where do you find the time to facilitate all of this along with a full-time testing role? Oh, good. The co-founders, everyone works on weekdays. That's Monday to Friday. And then Saturday, Sunday is free. So as it is a 2-hour session and the background tasks take 2 hours, so it's easy to get 4 hours in 48 hours, right? And it's again the cost versus value. We know the investment, 4 hours, it gives a lot in terms of testing ideas, testing values. So that's the reason, weekends we do get time. And I have one more question. How do you decide which products will be tested in WT sessions? And this is by Rimvidas Petkus. I'm sorry if I did not pronounce it correctly. How do you decide which products will be tested in WT sessions? One, it depends on the programmer. We do, suppose this weekend we have the weekend testing 60 session. We have already sent emails to few programmers asking, would you like your product to be tested? And we also check in the sourceforge.net, sf.net, and so many new tools, new products being discussed on Twitter. We pick one of them. The parameters which decide whether this product will get into a weekend testing session or not are the installer size, the complexity, the learnability of the software, how easy it is to learn, or OS independent or something, and it finally depends on the facilitator, guest facilitator, or the programmer, right? And I have one more question. Have you found any strange bugs or defects during the sessions? Strange bugs, yes. Sometimes, I think in the most of the, I don't want to name the company, if you browse through the discussion sessions or the reports on weekend testing website, I think you'll find a lot of bugs which would embarrass the product owners. Yes, we have found. Maybe we can discuss this in private. I don't want to list the bugs. Any more questions, please?
Thank you very much, AJ. That was a brilliant presentation.
Great. Thanks, Miriam.
Twitter is very busy with comments for you, so you'll be busy looking at those afterwards.
Okay, yeah. And thanks a lot for attending this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, as well. We also have one more webinar taking place tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. CET, and that webinar is with Fran O'Hara, and Fran is going to be speaking about Agile Test Management, and you can still register for this webinar by visiting our website. So if you have any more questions for AJ, you can ask those to him on Twitter, or you can email Miriam at EuroSTARconferences.com. If you're interested in submitting an article for our blog or a newsletter, you can also contact me, Miriam, at EuroSTARconferences.com. That's M-I-R-I-A-M. Finally, I'd like to remind you all that this webinar has been recorded, and we will email you once it is available in the EuroSTAR webinar archive. Thank you for listening. This webinar has now ended.